Hey Monica, how you doing?
Hey, Kimberly, I'm doing good. How are you today?
Doing great, thank you. Doing great. So glad that we are going to discuss another topic that puts control the controllables directly in the hands of our first responders.
Correct. And in essence of speaking of also self-care as well and taking care of ourselves for longevity, for long careers, for long lives, obviously, post-career as well. I think nutrition is one of the biggest things that should be important that often gets neglected so easily in the first responder career field.
And there's a couple reasons for that. And when I think back to when I was in a squad car, I kind of had the built-in, but very, very real excuse or reason to why I would eat shit food is because, crazy schedules, the inability to not be answering calls. I mean, if it's call after call after call after call, you don't get to go sit down in a restaurant. And if you're an individual who works in a part of an urban area that doesn't really have restaurants for you to go in and sit down, or you work out in the county somewhere and there's really nothing except a truck stop to eat in, and you're not close to it, you got to take some control of this. Like I was telling you earlier, there was a while I ate a lot of fried chicken through the drive-through, or I would stand in the parking lot and eat tacos, and neither one of those left me feeling really ready to sit in a squad car or run after anybody afterwards. Just wasn't in my best interest to do that.
Right. So today, from my standpoint of things, I have three and maybe a fourth pretty basic foundational tip as a place to start as
Mhm.
far as looking at nutrition and how to just very foundationally start working to change your nutrition habits towards a little bit better for you, less processed, less fast food, things like that. So number one is going to be trying to eat whole foods. So what are whole foods? It's anything that is naturally occurring in nature. So it means it comes from an animal, it comes from a plant, it comes out of the ground, anything like that. So it's going to be meats, nuts, seeds, fruits, vegetables, fish, anything like that that's naturally occurring in nature. And that also includes dairy products, things like that. Those go through a process, but this still comes from the animal. So whole foods are going to be your best friend because they are foods in their wholest form versus being something processed. For instance, if you take a potato and you cut it up and you fry it, it becomes French fries, and then it's incredibly processed because it's coated in oil and all of the crap that causes chronic diseases later on down the line. So number one would be whole foods. The second would be working to build a balanced plate. So if you can visualize a plate and putting together your meal, you ideally want to start with your protein, which also is a point of mine in prioritizing your protein. So I'll smash these two together. Your protein is going to be number one. So when you're building your meal, you want to prioritize protein first. So when you think about it and you can go to Panera and you order a soup and a bread bowl, there's no protein in that. So think of your chicken, fish, turkey, anything like that that's going to be your main protein source. You want that to be about a quarter of your plate. So you have your first quarter of your plate of protein. About half of the plate needs to be filled with vegetables, which usually tends to be the most challenging part, but about half the plate of vegetables. And then that leaves the remaining quarter of your plate for a starchy carbohydrate, which can be rice, pasta, potatoes, or bread. And then typically within the protein choice that you're choosing, there's some healthy animal fats in there as well, or maybe you're cooking it with some coconut or olive oil, which will also add in some healthy fats for you. So that covers your protein, it covers your carbohydrates, it covers your fats, and then it covers your vegetables and getting in some good plant-based foods there. So that's a great template to use when you're trying to build your plate at home, or even if you're going through a drive-through. A good example of that would be like a grilled chicken sandwich, which you can find in a drive-through. Your bread would be your carbs. You have your piece of chicken for your protein, and you have your lettuce and tomato as some vegetables in there. So not an overall bad choice. So different ways to look at building the balanced plate. The last tip I have, and this is more, I wouldn't say major or minor, but if you're going through the grocery stores and you're buying some of those packaged foods, is looking at the labels, making sure that there's maybe 5 ingredients or less on those labels. That way you're looking at a more whole food source there instead of something that's incredibly processed, that's going to have a ton of ingredients. Great example there. If you've ever looked at an RX bar, which is a protein bar that's often in Walmart, Costco, wherever you usually buy groceries, those usually have about 4 or 5 ingredients in them. But for instance, you pick up a box of Pop-Tarts or some cereal, their ingredient list is going to be half the box. So some quick tips there, very foundational tips: eat whole foods, work towards that balanced plate, make sure you're prioritizing your protein. You can't ever get enough protein. Most of us undereat on protein, which is what tends to cause the weight gain to begin with, because you're overeating on fats and carbohydrates. And then reading those labels, making sure if you are buying packaged goods, because there are good packaged goods out there to buy, making sure that they are whole foods based. There's not a whole lot of added crap in there. And you're also avoiding added sugar and added seed oils like sunflower oil, corn, canola oil, things like that.
So Monica, these are great, great tips. And, none of this was crazy stuff. You didn't ask anybody to do anything that you're not able to do, or that really would be outprice them from eating in a way that serves their body. So, and that's what I want to mention, is that our relationships with food are very, very complex, very, very complex. And like any relationship that we have, oftentimes they need work, or it's a work in progress. And so we have to be aware of that. Oftentimes we eat the way we were raised, or we eat in the way we were not raised. It just depends upon, what's making you think and what's making you go. I mentioned earlier the built-in excuse of I'm in a squad car, or I'm an investigator and I'm stuck at the desk all the time. I got to eat out of a vending machine or whatever. But using the tips that you gave us and recognizing that we could have a relationship with food that needs to be addressed, I'd like people to think of a couple of things. And I do believe that it's still simple, but maybe hard. In other words, the questions can be basically simple questions, but the work that you do internally and the answers you come up with might be a little bit difficult and might be a little bit uncomfortable. But since you gave them something to aim towards, they can deal with their internal shit and then do what they know that they need to do. So one of those is you want to eat to nourish your body. You want to eat to nourish your body. And we always talk about, oh, I don't want to get hung up on my food. I don't want to be one of those people that has all these weird eating habits. I don't want to be one of these people who, I don't want to be one of those people. Well, why not? Because look at what we as society have said it's acceptable. In all honesty, it does tend to be women that they say are those people. Like, we want to know what's in our food. We want to know what we're ordering. We order something on the side, or we ask for a substitution or whatever, or we want to always bring our food. That is a way of approaching eating. And I'm just going to make a very general statement here. But, men, they have a way of eating, but they get away with it because it's made to be fun. Oh, I eat whatever I want. Well, that's a way of eating. That's a lifestyle, right? It's the same thing. It's just a different way of eating. Oh, I eat whatever I want, how much I want, whatever. I'll just get a bigger uniform, blah, blah, blah. So we have, again, that complex relationship. We tend to punish ourselves for wanting to do better, or we're embarrassed. We don't want anybody to know that we're trying to do better. But the men will laugh about it and joke around about it. I eat whatever I want to eat. We even have commercials. We have commercials on TV of people eating absolute, total, horrific food. They are going to physically get ill, and they laugh about it, and they just pop a pill because it's funny and it's going to make them feel better. So they will take a prescription medication so that they can continue their way of eating. But we have women that will be self-conscious if they're reading labels, or self-conscious if they're getting their dressing on the side, or maybe not eating bread for a while. So please eat to nourish your body, respecting the relationship that you have with food. You want to create awareness. Be aware of why you are eating and the time that you're eating. And the time that you're eating, this kind of gets a little bit different for first responders. We don't always get to eat when we want to eat. We don't always get to eat when we plan to eat. Things happen. That's why we're called first responders. And we don't get to eat. What happens then is well, first of all, none of us have ever died from missing a meal on a shift, but we can become very uncomfortable and we can feel our thinking becoming a little cloudy, or we might not feel that great. So I highly recommend eating when you're on duty, eating when you're not hungry. Eat, or at least have it with you so you can, eat it really quick at the first sign you're going to have a break. But when I say eating when you're not hungry, if it's your dinner time and you still have 6 more hours to eat, to work, 6 more hours to work, maybe get a small snack into your belly. And that way you don't feel like you've gone too long throughout the shift without eating. And again, don't get into a battle with your food. You and I have talked about this many times, about how we are trying to decrease stress. We are trying to increase control. We want to be self-empowering. We want to take care of ourselves. So why would we pick a fight with food? That food's not picking a fight with us. We're picking a fight with the food. Now, if you eat food and it upsets your stomach or gives you a headache or it makes you break out in a rash, don't eat that food. What I'm talking about is where you make food good food or you make it a bad food. And if you eat something, you punish yourself. Don't do that. Please don't do that. You will not win that. You will not win that battle, and it's wasting your energy, and it just leads to a less quality relationship with food. Also, I want to throw out there really quick the 3 R's. Reflect on your eating habits and your triggers. Kind of think about why you're doing it. Kind of be aware of why you're doing it. Be aware of why you're eating. Be aware of why you're choosing one food over the other. Does it go because you didn't have it when you were growing up? Is it because you have a feeling that you might go hungry one day? I mean, that's real. I mean, we laugh and joke around about it. That is a very real feeling for some people, depending upon how you were raised or how you were fed or how you were allowed to eat as you were growing up, or if you were an athlete. You might feel like food might be limited at some point in your life. Replace the foods that you don't want to eat with the foods that you do want to eat. It's just like a habit. You don't break a habit unless you have something to take its place. So approach food the same way. If you don't want to eat the chips that are covered with all the flavorings and the chemicals, and you still want to eat a chip, maybe have a corn chip that's just the corn, the oil, and the salt. To reinforce that, don't have the chemical covered, flavor covered chips in the house. Don't have them in the house. Don't buy them. Have the corn chip in the house. That way you're making good decisions. You're replacing what you don't want to eat with what you do want to eat, and you're reinforcing that behavior. I do believe with everything that I added, and then you discussing the whole foods, the balanced plate, looking at protein and reading the labels, I think that our first responders actually can take some control of their eating.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you mentioned at the beginning being embarrassed about having healthy habits, I think it's a thing. It's called health shaming. And I've dealt with it before when somebody brings in a giant box of donuts or cookie cake into the break room, they're like, oh, she won't eat that. She's too healthy, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's so annoying. Because again, like eating like crap is the norm. So you get shamed for being healthy, which just blows my mind. But if that's happened to you, don't worry about it. It's okay to stay strong. It's okay to take your own food with you, even if it's to a restaurant. Like, I know that can be slightly awkward. But I've done it before, and I've had coworkers do it before because they'd rather eat their prepped food than to spend extra money eating out, right? You want to talk about budget and cost of food right now. You already paid to prep your food, and then you're paying to go buy a meal out when you have food sitting there with you. So if you're a frugal person or if you're on a budget, that should be a deterrent in itself, to help you stay on that healthy track. But a lot of people will say, well, I have food with me, but the guys want to go eat out. So I'm going to go out. I'm going to go eat with the guys on shift or whatever. Again, take your food or just say, hey, can we meet at the PD? Can we all go grab whatever food we want? Everybody sit together and eat at the PD. That was one of the things I found to be most effective and less like shameful, I guess, was that if you had your own food, like nobody cared. Like we were just all sitting there eating. It didn't matter who had what. Somebody went and got McDonald's and I had my food there, and somebody else went and got, I don't know, tropical smoothie or whatever. Like nobody cared. So, and then you mentioned I'm kind of jumping around here, hitting some points. I took some notes while you were talking. You mentioned having the snacks in your car, which is great. I highly recommend that. And I highly recommend, having non-perishable snacks in your car. So that way, if they get left in your car in the heat or the cold, I mean, obviously you want to swap them out every once in a while. But if it's like a month, 2 months, maybe for some of those, you know, it's not going to matter. You can still go grab it and still eat it, and it's not going to go bad. So a couple of those off the top of my head are like granola bars, nuts, packaged tuna will stay good for a while. You can have like a prepackaged thing, a protein powder, which is awesome because all you need is water to make yourself a protein shake. Crackers, pretzels. You know, I always keep that stuff with me on duty. And even some more non-perishable stuff. I mean, you can on a day-to-day basis keep it with you. That's easy, like yogurt or string cheese, or some smaller things that you don't have to do anything to. It's just you grab from the fridge or from the cabinet and you throw it in your lunchbox. There's no prep time there. So those are some good ideas to keep with you. Because especially when you don't always know when you're going to eat on shift. I was just talking to a client of mine last night about a very memorable moment I had where I got held over at the hospital late into like 2 or 3 in the morning, you know. And of course, you Texas people are familiar with Whataburger. We have that in Oklahoma as well. For some of you across the country who may not know what the hell that is, it's kind of like a Carl's Jr. or Hardee's, or maybe like a Burger King if you want to go that route. Very greasy hamburgers. A lot of people love the hell out of it, but it's one of the few things around here that's open like 24/7. So if you're an evening shifter or a midnight shifter, it's like the only place to go get hot food. So I left out of there and was starving. And of course I hit up Whataburger, and I think I regretted it like for the next 24 hours because my stomach was not okay after that.
When they built a Whataburger in the part of town I worked in, it was like we were dancing in the street. And we would go in there at like 2:30 in the morning with all the racer speeders, the people that we were just trying to arrest. Once they were done with their racing and speed, they would go to the Whataburger, and we would go to the same Whataburger, and we would all eat in the same Whataburger at the same time. And I would get a double cheeseburger, ketchup only, a large fry, and a Diet Coke. Okay, so I haven't drank diet soda in years. I mean, years. I haven't had it. It was one of the hardest things I ever did was stop eating Diet Coke. It was very, very hard to do, but I stopped doing that. But we would eat that food, and I didn't leave anything. I mean, I did not leave anything. And then like for the next 2 hours, I was like, oh, and I'm like, I can't run after anybody. Oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? It's like, you don't get to go walk around the block. You got to get back in the car and go back to work. You know, it was pretty funny. Yeah. Whataburger. Oh, those days. Ask any cop in Texas about Whataburger and we'll all laugh. Hey, I mean, I got to admit, I loved it while I was eating it.
Yep. Nope.
I
can't do it anymore.
Nope. No.
Right. And the last note that I have, and I think this is a good note to end on, you talked about eating to fuel your body, which is the perspective I like to use with my clients because it takes your mindset off of restriction. Because there's so much in the diet and nutrition world that says you need to restrict, whether it's cutting calories or cutting carbs or I mean, fill in the blank. People are always telling me, well, I try to cut out this or try to cut out that, which I mean, it's good if you're trying to like cut out the pop, or things like that. But really there should be a balance in everything. And that's what I work with my clients to try to achieve, of where if you really like pop, have your pop, like have one pop a week if you want. If that's going to satisfy you, it's not going to derail your health or your goals. If you enjoy a dessert every once in a while, or you have a donut in the break room. Like it's not, one food is not inherently good or bad. A piece of chicken is not going to help you reach your goals just as much as a donut is going to make you fat. Like, as those are kind of like extreme examples, but you get the point. So instead, I like to think of, as far as looking for that balance, I like to think of foods being effective or ineffective. So if you're thinking about what your goals are, maybe you're just trying to improve your health, just improve your nutrition habits, or maybe you're working towards actually losing weight or gaining muscle. Is this cheeseburger or this pizza going to be effective for me to hit my goals? Okay, maybe it's more on the ineffective side, but it's something I enjoy and I want to eat right now. So there's still benefit from you eating that, because the other side of that is you tell yourself that, like, that pizza is bad for me, I can't have it. And then that's where you get into the whole poor relationship with food, which is what you referenced earlier. So that changes the mindset a little bit of being effective or ineffective. It doesn't mean it's necessarily good or bad. So I think it helps to work finding that balance and eating a little bit of everything. 80 to 90% of the time, eating the foods that are going to be like the whole foods with the balanced plate with the high protein. And then maybe 10 to 20% of the time, enjoying the foods that you love, whether it's a bottle of pop or you have a piece of cake or it's a drink on the weekend, things like that. Having that balance is what's going to help keep things sustainable for you long term.
Monica, I really like what you said about the whole foods, the balanced plate, really looking at protein, reading your labels so that you know what you are consuming. And if you marry that with recognition of your relationship with food and to eat to nourish your body and don't have that battle with the food, don't set yourself up, your own self up for failure. Stop judging yourself for how you eat. I really think we could have a win-win situation. It goes back to what we're always talking about: self-empowerment, control what you can control. And it goes back even to that decision making with the space. Remember how we always say you want to have as much time, much space to make a decision? It's the same thing with what we eat. Educate yourself and then spread out the time to make the decision, and then make a good decision as often as you can. It's a win-win.
So like you said, I like the perspective of eating to nourish your body, but more or less eating to fuel your body, because we have a lot of demands on us as first responders. We have stressful shifts, and hopefully we have things going on outside of shift too, where we expend extra energy there, whether it's with family or exercise or other outside commitments too. So you really need to be fueling your body for those demands, because you're going to feel much better when you do. You're going to have improved mental clarity. You're going to feel better. You're going to have more energy. You're going to have all those extra benefits by just making these intentional choices to improve your nutrition habits.
And sleep. You can even sleep better. How you eat, as we know, can negatively or positively affect your sleep. And we all need quality sleep. That's where we heal. That's where we heal.
Right.
So Monica, thank you for all of this. I hope that people got, well, actually, I know that people got something out of this. I know that people got something out of it. It's good, solid information. And we're sticking true to our intent of empowering other first responders. They matter. How do people get a hold of you?
So the best place to find me is on Facebook. You can find me at 50 Fierce and Fit group. It's a Facebook group you can select to join. I love to put out awesome content all the time, different tips and tricks to help you, depending on anything that's going on within your career, lifestyle, mindset, fitness, nutrition, all of those good things. And if you have a direct question, you can feel free to message me through there. You'll find me by name, Monica Eaton, on Facebook. Always happy to help you brainstorm if you have any specific things or questions that you need, or if you have a specific situation at work you just want to vent about, maybe something female related, you're having some challenges at work. Happy to talk that through with you, just to give you some perspective and maybe some good guidance and direction there too.
Yeah, I love the workouts that you post on there. I love that. And I really like the empowering stories that you share of other people just like us who have gotten a little bit to where they don't want to be and have recognized it and are willing to do that work and put in the efforts to get back to where they want to be. I love that. Thank you for always sharing that. I can be reached on Facebook also. I have a public group called Bold and Brave Women. You ask to join, you can come on to that. This YouTube channel, of course, which is To the Point Coach. And please subscribe. And then I have a website, tothepointcoach.org. And once you reach out to me, we can then talk on the phone, we can email back and forth, text back and forth, whatever. And I have for a long, long time had an open door policy on if anybody needs any help with anything, I'm more than willing to help them. I am a certified life coach and a retirement life coach. So I help people basically in all parts of their life thrive. That's my goal. That's my
Yes.
goal.
Love it. Well, we will be back again, I assure you, within the next week or two with some more content for you. So comment, let us know what you want to see. If there's anything else we can cover for you, anything else we can do to help you, please reach out and let us know.
Yes, thanks so much. Bye, everybody. Stay safe.
Thank you. Stay safe.